Welcome to the Rose at Home channel. I'm Rose, I am at home, and I am so glad that you are here and that we are now over 400 subscribers. Each and every one of you means so much to me, and I'm so touched that you've come back over and over again and decided to subscribe so that we can talk books and share the things that we're reading. We have some great conversations down in the comments if you'd ever like to join in. And today I'm going to talk about all the things I read in August. I was a little worried because August is the month I went back to work, but I still managed to read 5 books at that time, and not necessarily all short ones. So really proud of me, and I enjoyed everything I read this month, so sorry if that's spoilers, but I can't wait to share them with you. I am going to start with the 2 most adorable reads I had this month. I had 2 books that were just adorable, just cute from beginning to end. The first one I want to talk about, I'm going to tell you when you should read this. If you ever need a hug in book form, if you ever need to sit down and feel like you've been held by a book, this is your book. It's super short, but it is just the sweetest, I don't know how else to say it other than hug in a book. It is adorable. The characters are great. All of it just is such a feel-good book in such a wonderful way. And it's not, I should probably tell you what the book is. It is Becky Chambers, A Psalm for the Wild Built. It's wonderful. It is super short. If you're not me teaching, it's probably one that you could read in a day. It really does feel like a warm hug in a book. It is about a non-gendered monk who's feeling like they're not where they should be. They're not where they're supposed to be. And they have this craving to go out into the world. And so they become what is called a tea monk. And I think that's the best job in the world. So a tea monk has this wagon, and they drive around with this wagon, and they stop at different little hamlets and villages, and they put out pillows and seats, and they brew tea, and then people come and drink tea with them and talk. They can see the burden kind of lifting off of them. You can see them feeling better. You can see them making a difference because they listen. They don't try to solve the person's problems. They don't in any way kind of like interfere or fix things. They just listen, and it's a great job. And then of course we've got the robot shows up, and there's a little bit of hijinks, and there is stuff. It does have a plot. There are things that happen, but it's really about this quest for meaning, I guess you would say, this quest for moving forward. And I'm doing a terrible job at making this wonderful book sound as good as it is, but it is so good. It is so sweet. If you're like feeling all happy-go-lucky, you'll probably still enjoy it, but on those times when you're down and lonely and you need a helping hand, pick this up, read this, let it envelop you in its booky pages, and I think you'll feel better. I think it'll do the thing for you, because it did it for me, and I cannot recommend it more highly. The second adorable book that I read in August is very different because it is a murder mystery, but it is a Regency murder mystery, and it is, I'm gonna put the cover right up here because look how adorable that is. It is A Most Agreeable Murder. Take Pride and Prejudice and decide that Elizabeth Bennet doesn't want to get married because she'd rather solve crimes. That's this book. It was so cute. It was just so much fun. It was adorable. That's really the best way to describe it. So the main family here is going to a ball. They are trying to get at least one of the daughters married because they have a cousin who will stand to inherit. He'll inherit their manor, he'll inherit their family home and all that comes with it if none of the girls marry, because there are no boys in this family. And this cousin is trying to speed things up by getting rid of the family at this point. So there's supposed to be this eligible bachelor at this ball. Of course, someone is killed at this ball, but there's a raging storm outside, so it must be someone in the house. So it's kind of a locked room mystery kind of thing, and they're all locked in the house with the killer because the storm is too bad outside for anyone to leave. So our main character manages to get herself involved in the crime solving, and so we get to watch her finally get her dream. It drags a little in the middle. That was my only issue. There's a whole huge section of middle where they're just kind of interviewing person after person after person, and that's the part where I was like, I wish they could have investigated without like sitting down with individual people and asking questions and just kind of going that way. It was fine at the beginning when that part first started, but then that part went on too long. Like, my explanation of it is going on too long. But beyond that, it was adorable. I loved the writing. I loved the characters. It wasn't who I thought it was going to be. I had a few people as it went through, like it could be this one, it could be this one, it could be this one, and then the person it wasn't even on my list. I totally recommend it. It's a good time, especially if you like Pride and Prejudice and things like that. You'll really enjoy this. It was so much fun. And now to the first thing that I read. We're done with all of the adorable cuteness. This is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I read this for Mystery Book Club. It was the last meeting for the summer quarter, and so I wouldn't have necessarily picked this up, even though domestic thrillers are kind of my thing, but I'm really glad I did. It was a good time. If you're okay with everyone in a book being absolutely deplorable. There are no good people in this book. Everyone is terrible. Everyone is horrible. And you're kind of hoping that everybody does get, I'm not saying you hope everybody dies, but there's nobody to root for. You're kind of rooting for, well, I hope that one goes and I hope that one goes, because they're all awful. So the premise here is there is a married couple that has won a trip into the Scottish Highlands to stay at this converted chapel for like a wedding retreat weekend. And it's the middle of winter, the whole place is snowed in, it's just awful beginning to end. The husband in this has a condition where he basically has face blindness. The way they describe it is that the faces keep shifting around and they look like a Picasso thing with your eyes and the nose and all of that. So here's part of what made this so amazing. In my book club, we learned, because she spoke, that one of our members has this condition or a similar one. The scientific term they use in here and the scientific term she used for hers was different, but it's the same thing. She has face blindness. And she said it doesn't do that whole swimming thing for her. It's just that she looks at someone and doesn't recognize them. She just doesn't. And she told a story where she and a friend were on a walk and this car pulled up and the friend talked to the person for like 5 minutes, and she looked in, saw the person and didn't recognize anybody. So she waited and waited and she started to get a little annoyed. And then when the car drove off, she asked her friend, well, who was that? And the friend said, that was your husband? And she's been married to this person for decades, and she didn't listen long enough to catch the voice. We were able to ask her questions. She's like, I'm open if there's anything in the book that did or didn't make sense and you want me to speak to it. All of that to say, so there were things in here that just, even with his face blindness, didn't make sense, but the twists in here are great. There are multiple twists and turns where you're like, whoa, wait, what? And then when the big twist happens at the end, it's one where none of us at book club saw that coming, and multiple of us, myself included, were like, wait, how did I not? And we're flipping back and looking at other, like, wouldn't that have, how did I not? And we're looking at back pages and then going, oh my gosh, how did I not see that? So if you like that kind of thing, you would like this. If having nobody in the book to root for because they're all deplorable bothers you, then you wouldn't like this. This is not your book. Now, even though this was in Mystery Book Club, there's not like a detective who's figuring things out. No, you're the only one figuring things out. They're just going through their day-to-day. So I don't know that I would even call this necessarily a mystery. Even though there's mystery for you, there's nobody trying to solve anything in it. So I would call this more of a domestic thriller, but I enjoyed it. I can't separate the fact that I had the great conversation at book club from it's part of my whole experience. So there's a chance that part of my enjoyment is because of the wonderful conversation we had. But if you run a book club, this is a great one because there's lots of things to talk about. It's a nice juicy book for that. The next thing that I read was a kind of horror book. It's a culty book, and again, I really enjoyed this. This was Dead 11 by Jimmy Juliano. I enjoyed this a lot. I will say I agree with the reviews that says it's slow. It is slow, but that's on purpose. It is so atmospheric. And so it really moves, so you've got that sense of dread that can keep growing, and that sense of not knowing for sure what's going on. So the premise of this, there is a woman whose son has been killed in a car accident, and she sees the name of this island written in his floor, in under one of his toys. She goes back in his room and there it's written there. So she goes to this island, and we get her timeline, and then we get her brother's timeline. He has gone to this island to try to find her because she is now missing. And so we go back and forth between what happened with her up to the day she goes missing and his investigation of what happened to her. Now on this island, it's very cult-like, it's very closed society. Everyone on this island lives like it's still in the early 1990s. They rewatch the Bronco chase with O.J. Simpson every night on TV, or they watch the same football game over and over again, or whatever sport was on at the time. So they have it on VHS and they watch it every single night. They try to do the same exact things every single day. And you don't know why for sure. You have your suspicions. Are they doing this because someone is making them? Are they doing this because someone has scared them? Are they doing this because there actually is something to be scared of? You don't know until you get to the absolute end, but it's really well done. It could be a little, it's a bit of a chunker. It could have been a little bit shorter and still achieved its goals, and I think it wouldn't have felt quite as slow at the first half or so, but it's still really well done. I still really enjoyed it. I still was questioning all the way to the end what's real and what isn't. And if you like that kind of thing, if you like that heavy atmosphere, that sense of dread, that not quite knowing, what's going on with this, and you like the culty kind of thing, you might really enjoy this. So I strongly suggest it for anyone who's into that kind of thing. And finally, the last thing I read this month was Chloe Gong's Immortal Longings. I do not understand the Goodreads rating. I gave this 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. This was a ride. So a lot of the folks are comparing it to Hunger Games, and it does compare, but this is adult and Hunger Games is YA. And I'm going to tell you, District 12 at the beginning of the Hunger Games would be like a 5-star resort to the people who live in San Air. This place sounds absolutely horrible. There's no good in it. There's no happy in it. Everything is just absolutely trash and horrible. It is this walled-in city. It's actually a twin cities, but they've got super high walls. No one can leave. No one is supposed to enter, but they have sometimes lotteries and things to let people from the countryside come in to try to find work. The issue is there's not enough work even for people that are in there, and there's certainly not enough housing or food. So you've got things where people are starving to death. You've got elderly who can't work anymore, who are basically living in stacked cages that they're just big enough for their body to go in. They can go in there and sleep, and they're just stacked one on top of the other because that's all of the space that they have. There's no oh, here's this nice part. Oh, here's this part of love. Here's this. No, there's no good whatsoever. And so if those were the critiques that I was seeing, I would understand that. Yes, it's a ride, but it's not a, oh, happy times, sad times kind of ride. It's a, oh, where someone's trying to kill us. Oh, someone's not trying to kill us. That's where the roller coaster comes in. So Every year the king holds these games. There are 88 contestants, but you apply to compete to be a contestant. And I believe there's a fee to apply. And so they select people. The winner is going to get a bunch of money. The losers are basically murdered. Now, the thing that didn't quite make sense to me is that you can be in it and remove yourself. Not kill yourself, but like you get a watch. You can take the thing out of your watch and you're just out. And so you don't have to die. And so I was like, why are so many people being killed? Why not someone's about to kill me? Just pull the thing. Hey dude, I'm out. Like, it's good. Or instead of killing people, take their watches and pull their cards. You don't have to kill anybody, but everyone just does. And I guess it's because of that world. But that's a part where I thought that would have been interesting if someone had come into the games and was winning without actually killing. They were just destroying people's watches and letting them go. That would have been a different book. I'm not trying to rewrite her book. That would have been a different book. But I was a little I guess because that's how I would have played the game, but I'm confused that no one else tried that. So we have multiple characters. We have the prince of this world who ends up teaming up with one of the players who is, I called her Kaya the whole time. It's C-A-L-L-A, so it could be Kala. The two L's went to Y immediately in my head, and then I couldn't lose that. So he's teamed up with Kaya and is helping her from the inside because he basically wants her to kill his dad so he can now be king. Her goal, she even got in the games so that she could go to the palace and meet the king and kill him. That's her whole goal. And then we have another player named Anton, whose girlfriend, sort of, or friend girl, it's kind of depends because it's been years. She is in a coma in the hospital and the medical bills are so overwhelming. He needs to try to find a way to cover the bills and find a way to afford to have people try to save her and get her back out of the coma. So he has to win because he has to get the prize. She has to win because she has to kill the king. And the prince is there trying to help her. And then we've got all of the other players and all of the people in this town. It was a ride. It was fast paced. It moved. I didn't have any problem with the writing. I read a lot of writing. I read student writing and I had no problem with this writing. I enjoyed it from beginning to end. I do kind of wish there was something redeemable about this place, that the people haven't themselves just completely rebelled. I get that they're kind of being ruled by fear and all of that. But yeah, there were a couple of things that if it were my book, I would have written them differently, but it's not my book. So as a reader, I enjoyed the book that Chloe wrote, and it ended in a really good place. Like, it did wrap up everything in this story while leaving new questions and new things at the end that I'm excited to read and get to. So I'm excited for the next one. I'm glad I read this one. I very much enjoyed it. And if you like that kind of fight to the death, battle royale, Hunger Games, Squid Games kind of thing, I think that you would really enjoy this too. Okay, so really quickly, I was not at all hurt by the storm. It turned somewhere between 2 and 3 in the morning and ended up coming in about 30 to 40 miles east of me, got the brunt of it, and the damage that I've seen on TV is just awful. And so I'm so lucky to have not had to deal with that, but I feel terrible for them that they had to. But I did luck out, so no concerns about me and this storm. There will always be more. There'll be, my guess is 3 to 4 more this season that will come in this direction. There's no way of knowing for sure until it starts happening, but yeah, it's really early. The hurricane season starts like June 1st or something, but we normally don't start actually this is a little early. They normally start somewhere in mid-September. We start seeing things come toward us. So September through October, by the end of October, we're kind of out of the woods. And so we've still got 2 solid months that we could get hit. But right now, no worries about me, no worries about my house. Everything is absolutely fine. And we got a lot of rain and a lot of wind, but nothing bad happened here. So if you were worried, thank you very much for your concern, but I'm great and we're great and the house is great. So I'm super excited about what I'm going to be reading in September. If you have not seen my September TBR, I'm going to put that right over here so that you can see what's hopefully coming up, and hopefully I have another amazing reading month where I just adore everything that I get to read. And so in the meantime, I hope that you have a really great week and that you get to read some really great books. Bye, y'all.